Am I the asshole for not sharing my car with my stepbrother? My parents are divorced but cordial. My mother married my stepdad when I was 11. I have a stepbrother who is my age and a half-brother who is 4. My dad recently brought me a new car for my birthday. My brother also had bought a car which he bought with his money. It was second-hand but in good condition. Just a few days after I got my car he had a crash in which his car was severely damaged. This was not the first time he was reckless with a car. Earlier he had almost crashed his father's car as well, with me in the backseat and his father in the front. It is one of the reasons my stepdad refused to buy him a car. A few days back when I returned from my friend's house who lived nearby, I saw my car gone from the driveway. I immediately ran into the house and started looking, asking my mom and stepdad about it. My stepdad looked bewildered, but my mom calmly got up from her seat and told me she had given my car to my stepbrother to go visit his friends who live quite some distance away. I started to panic and asked her why she would do that. She simply said it's what siblings do, and from then on me and my stepbrother could use the car on alternate days. By this point my stepdad had come over to us and told her she shouldn't have done it without my permission. He told her if anything happened to the car then she would have to pay. She agreed. Well, something did happen. Stepbrother crashed the car, hood, headlights and airbags needed to replaced. I informed my father about this, and after assessing the damage he learning what led to this, he immediately said either stepbrother or mother has to pay for part of the repair cost which the insurance doesn't cover. My mother tried to negotiate but he wouldn't budge. She asked stepdad and he wouldn't help either, so she had to give the money from her savings. Yesterday, after the car had come back from the mechanic, she came to me and asked for my car keys. I asked what was up and she reminded me of the alternative day policy. I told her she was out of her mind to even think that I would share the car with my stepbrother after all of this, but she just said she had promised stepbrother his share of days, and that is also the reason she had the car repaired so both of us could use it. I took the car keys and locked the door of my room. She then called me ungrateful. My stepbrother said I was depriving him of meeting his friends and he was suffering. My stepdad later came and put stop to it. The only reason I think I might be the asshole is because I know my stepbrother wasn't lying about his mental health issues. He has had to see a therapist because of it. Ho's friends have been really helpful in his struggle with his mental health. And my mother did say she would pay for the damages. So, I don't know, should I just give my stepbrother another chance? Am I the asshole? Also, I did offer to drive my brother to his friends but he straight up refused, saying it would embarrass him. Update. Okay. So thank you all for taking the time to comment in the awards. So there have been a few major revelations since my last post. Firstly, I called up Dad so he could convince Mom not to pressure me into giving the car to my stepbro. Dad told Mom it was wrong of her to expect me to share my car, which is in Dad's name by the way, will be transferred to me when I turn 18. When my stepbrother has time and again proved that his driving skills cannot be trusted. The call was on speaker so I heard it all. She resisted at first but said okay. When the call ended, she told me that we need to clear some things out. I honestly thought she was going to pressure me again, but instead she started crying and said that the main reason she wanted him to drive a car was because he was extremely nervous about driving. His mother passed away in a car accident. Some of his classmates had badly bullied him about it and Mom had seen him crying one day, shaking and panicking. She had promised him that he would drive a car without any nervousness, so basically she would just let him crash cars until he didn't anymore. I personally think this is a highly inappropriate approach to the issue and expressed it to her. She said she understood now but she was too emotionally attached to the issue. I already knew she had been bullied a lot during her high school years as well. She said my brother had confided in her that he feared his new, good, friends would humiliate him like the bullies if they found out he couldn't drive properly. Also the reason behind not letting me drive him or taking an Uber. I was shocked. I knew that he was dealing with mental health issues but not that it was this bad. I asked her if stepdad knew. She said no, and stepdad thought he shouldn't drive because of his late wife's death in a similar manner. She told me that he has panic attacks every time stepbrother crashed a car. I have never seen him get the news of any of his car crashes so I didn't know, and that stepbro felt ashamed. I said she probably should tell him why stepbro keeps trying to drive. She agreed they had, I assume, a long conversation with voices rising high. I guess they were not on speaking terms because both were being cold to each other ever since and stepdad slept on the couch last night. I guess stepdad had a talk to his stepbro because he apologized to me today. I forgave him and he also agreed to my offer of driving him, and we will go over to his friend's place later today. The only thing I'm concerned about is my mom and stepdad's rift. She has been cold to everyone and stepdad is not speaking to her but is still friendly with me. Things were pretty awkward at the breakfast table today. While I'm happy that stepbro's issues got addressed in a positive way, I think I just ruined my mom's marriage. For those of you asking, stepbro refused to drive mom's car because it is the same model as the one his mother passed away in. Also, me and stepbro are 17. Not the asshole. Apparently, he's more concerned with his embarrassment than his mental health issues. Tell him to Uber. Not the asshole. This kid is constantly crashing cars and his own mother thinks it's a smart and reasonable idea to let him keep getting behind the wheel. Get bent. He can take public transit or get a ride from someone. Not the asshole, she can let him use her car if it's so important for him to drive. Massive not the asshole. No two ways about it. Your mother is being completely unreasonable, and enabling your stepbrother's awful, entitled behavior. Not the asshole. Your brother has wrecked 3 cars to date. Your stepfather, who it sounds like is his father, is not supportive of a car for him, so why is your mother bending over backwards for him? This is weird. Your stepbrother needs to get job and pay for his own car, particularly since he has now had 3 wrecks. Honestly, I'm surprised the insurance company will even insure him. Not the asshole. If you think you need to add fuel to the fire, tell your mother and brother you want a payment for diminished value on the car as well. Especially since the airbags were deployed, the value of the car went down considerably after the repairs. And this should be taken into consideration from them if the insurance company want. Back on topic, if you really feel the need to let him use the car, then maybe he needs driving lessons first, and this should be a condition of use. Not the asshole. Don't give in to them. Hide your keys and never leave them at home if you go somewhere, and leave the car in the driveway. If you come home and find it missing, call the police and report it stolen. And tell them that you are going to do that if the car comes up missing again. Since it doesn't belong to her, she can't let your stepbrother borrow it. She doesn't have that authority. And if you have a good relationship with your father and he's willing, I would consider moving in with him. Your mother is an aw. Good for your stepfather for siding with you and making her pay for the damages. Not the asshole. Uber can be his friend. Am I the asshole for not allowing my wife's ex-in-laws to meet our twins? At least not yet. My 29M wife's 31F first husband passed away 5 years ago to a hit and run. I knew them both for 4 years prior that since I work with her, but only became real close a year after because our company did a bonding camping thing and she taught me how to start a fire with rocks. We went up after that, always messing around, having a few drinks after work, helping her move. I encouraged her to go to therapy after her FH loss, and we eventually started dating and married 2 years ago. I'm totally in love with her and I know she is always head over heels with me. She still talks with her former in-laws every now and then, and I don't have a problem with that. They've been together for almost a decade before her FH passed, since they were high school sweethearts, and I know they hold her near their heart. They've stepped our boundaries and still get invited to her birthday. Thing is, my wife got pregnant with twins, and when they found out, they were super happy for us. Their son was an only child. So I get that they feel like having a grandchild is something they won't ever get. They told my wife that they wanted to give us a crib and asked if it was okay. I had second thoughts because I'm no stranger to manipulation. I know that some people give things expecting to have some benefits from it, and I told my wife as much. But she said that I was exaggerating and that letting them give us something won't hurt anyone, so she said yes. First we were gonna go and get it ourselves. Then they would send it here, but after that they told us that they would deliver it themselves since they wanted to visit my, at that time, 7 months pregnant, wife. She said yes, and we had them here for hours, telling us how we could do things around. How we could decorate the nursery and asking if they could visit her more just to make sure she was okay. I felt like a dick because I could see that these people were hanging to a feeling and a situation that they wished they could have, so I let my wife make the decision. She said yes. After that they came almost 3-4 days a week just to check up on her, and sometimes bossing us around on how we should do things, and my last straw was when his mother asked us to name one of our kids after his son so my wife won't forget about him. I said no. Now that my wife has given birth, they've called me asking when they can visit, and honestly I don't know if I want it. Having 2 babies is a lot of work, and I don't want them around telling how their kids could have been or telling me how to do things with my children. But my mother believes I'm being an aw. Edit. Since people keep asking what my wife thinks about it, I'm gonna leave it here. My wife wants them around the kids too, and it's not like I don't want them. I just don't want them now. When I told her my reasons, she agreed that she doesn't want them to see the twins as they potential grandchildren or the kids she could have with their son. I know that a lot of people are fond of the extra pair of grandparents. But I'm not, and even though she loves them, she doesn't want it either. Single quote. We understand that some people love the idea of extra pair of grandparents, or that having more people around it's okay. But we don't. Before our kids we used to see these people 3 or 4 times a year in birthdays or Christmas, and my wife moved on with her life. She isn't fond of the idea of having them as family figures to our kids too, even when she will allow them to be around, so no. I'm not controlling my wife or making her cut ties with them as some of you have stated. Oof. This might be above Reddit's pay grade, my dude. There's just a lot of emotion to unpack here. That said, you're not the asshole for wanting to focus on your family and your baby. That said, your wife isn't the asshole for wanting to still foster and keep a relationship that's important to her. Ultimately, the parenting rules is 2 yes, 1 no. But you may want to seek some couples counseling to hash out the tough shit here. Not the asshole. They're imposing themselves as grandparents, acting as if they have a right to any role in your kids' lives, as well as the lives of you and your wife, when the hard truth is, they don't. Not gonna lie, I was okay with the occasional visit thing. Till the mention of being bossy, and then the very idea of having her name one of them after their dead son, so she won't forget him? Pardon me, but fuck that. They're your kids, not theirs. Nope. Not the asshole. Not one bit. Can't help but notice you've not said what your wife wants. Doesn't she have any say in this, or is your opinion the only thing that matters here? Was ready to call you a raging asshole until it got to 3-4 times a week visits and wanting to name the baby after their deceased son. No assholes here, they're still grieving but they're expecting too much. I could easily see their expectations getting out of hand in the future. You and your wife need to sit down and discuss what you think is appropriate and set some boundaries that everyone can deal with. Best of luck to you all. Not the asshole. These people need to grieve and move on. Your wife needs to be firm and tell them, no. Trying to get her to name a baby after her first husband is beyond strange. The fact that they are still a huge part of her life is concerning. Don't be surprised if they want the twins to sleep over and call them grandma and grandpa. Nip this in the bud. The way they are acting is sending up tons of red flags. Never let them alone with those babies. Infants are supposed to not be visited if possible because there is a double epidemic of the Delta variant and RSV right now. Buy months with that. Take your time figuring out what you are both comfortable with. Settling in with twins is enough right now. Emo asking you to name one after him was WAAAAAAY over the line of acceptable pregnancy, birth. Congratulations. Edit. Not the asshole. Whatever their relationship with her, having any guests over when you, your partner are pregnant and or have a new baby is overwhelming. It also does seem like they feel entitled to see a baby that honestly, as much as I feel bad for their loss, they have relation to, unless your wife really wants them to be involved, then that's a conversation for you to work out with her. No judgment yet, but the title is misleading. Ex-in-laws imply your wife divorced her last husband, not that he died. That does change the dynamic and relationship they have with her. Honestly, you'll never know their grief. You don't have to take their advice or anything like that. If your wife wants them in her and her children's life, let them. Extra grandparents aren't a bad thing. It's your house, so you and your wife make the rules. The name is your choice though. They are missing out on a huge part of their life that was taken from them. You're definitely not in awe, but you don't have to worry about them taking over your life. Talk to your wife and see how she feels about it. Am I the asshole for accepting my parents' old house despite my father and stepmother's history there? Obligatory mentions of, this is a throwaway ACC, I'm an ESL, not in the US. Too long did not read. Mid-20s F. Recently graduated with my master's degree and my maternal aunt and grandparents gave me my parents' old house as the graduation gift. My father and stepmother think I should have refused it as a consideration to them. Background. In my country, it's still fairly common, especially in the more rural areas, that parents either outright gift or at least significantly help all but one of their children with their own house. The one child who is not given, helped with a house inherits the original parental house and any other parental estate. It's also expected of that child to take care of the elderly parents, too. My mom was the one who got the new house. My aunt is the one staying with grandparents. My father moved to our village upon marrying my mom. His parents gave him a car and covered a significant portion of the appliances for the new home, but the construction of the building and the land itself was from my maternal side. My mom died when I was 12. My father pretty much checked out of the marriage shortly after her diagnosis and began seeing my future stepmother. He moved her into the house about 2 months after the funeral and married her 4 months later. He said it was to give me a mother figure, which is bullshit. I was young, not stupid. I could see he pretty much gave up on my mom and my mom knew it, too. I turned to my aunt as my mother figure when it came to things like periods, bras, sex etc. I wasn't outright rude to the stepmother, but I made it clear I wasn't going to come to her with those things. As I mentioned above, we lived in a village. There was a lot of side-eyeing of my father's actions and it was clear that both my father and stepmother were viewed as trashy for their actions. No one was outright rude to them, but they were treated as strangers, not members of the community. It eventually got to them and they sold the house and moved away. They didn't know at the time that the house was bought by a friend of my aunt who immediately sold it to my aunt in turn. She kept the house with the intention to give it to me eventually. I accepted, of course. It's my childhood home, still in good condition. I have roots in the area and a lined-up job with a reasonable commute. I didn't see any downsides. My father said my acceptance is a slap in the face, considering he and his wife were run out of the house 10 years ago. That I can't expect them to regularly visit the site of their humiliation. That if I wanted a house, I should have asked him first. That a good daughter would think about how her parents would feel. Whatever his failings as a husband, he was a decent father to me, and maybe I should have thought about the fact that his memories of the house are worse than mine. I could always sell it again and buy another one with no emotional baggage. My aunt wouldn't mind. So am I the asshole for accepting and possibly keeping the house? Not the asshole. And #X200B. Considering he and his wife were run out of the house, that is a lie, they are not honest. They sold it. And #X200B. That if I wanted a house, I should have asked him first. Tell him. He buys you a second house and pays for it, you will consider not living in the house you already have. Closing parenthesis dot. And #X200B. And #X200B. Anyway, keep the house. He does not need to visit, if he does not like it. And #X200B. And #X200B. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. It's not that big of a deal. It's your home too, and any negative experiences he had there are his own fault. I don't know how useful an American perspective will be due to cultural differences, but not the asshole. Your dad did a very bad thing by leaving his dying wife and fleeing his town in shame. You do not need to suffer because of his bad behavior. It is not your responsibility to change your decisions to make him happy. If he can't come back to that house, that's his problem, not yours. Not the asshole. Your father didn't like the consequences of his actions. So he's resorting to emotional manipulation. I wouldn't sell it. The house doesn't hold bad memories for you, just him. Let him learn to deal with it. Just like you had to after your mom died. Not the asshole. This isn't about him. It's about you and what you want. Keep the house. If he doesn't want to visit you in it, that's his prerogative. Of course, not the asshole. If you had turned down your childhood home and a windfall, it would be a slap in the face of your maternal aunt who supported you more than your own father did. She wouldn't deserve that. Also, your father and stepmother deserve to be run out of the village. I won't say anything further out of respect for your feelings, but I'll tell you he is being hypocritical and unreasonable. Did he even offer to buy you another house? No. He should dismiss himself. Not the asshole. Remind your dad that your other parent is your mom, whom you have your last memories of in that house. Tell him to go from decent father to a good one. He would put your feelings for your mom, house over his hurt feelings. Not the asshole. It shouldn't matter what country, culture you are from. Parents should always put their children first. I don't mean that the children should get everything they want. But if the house makes you happy, he should be happy for you and own his reputation. It's his own fault that this happened to him, and you shouldn't bear any of the blame or feel any guilt for it. Am I the asshole for refusing to flush the toilet when I pee? This is so weird, I know, lol, but it will be short and to the point. Anyway, I pee a lot and I think it's an incredible waste to flush the toilet every time you pee. To me, doing that is the weird thing. It's completely normal for me to just leave my pee in the toilet and really only flush for poo. I don't see the issue with this, but my boyfriend hates it. He says it's absolutely disgusting, and I act like an animal doing that, and he shouldn't be subjected to my bodily fluids just because I want to be a cheapskate. I can see his point I guess, but honestly, I don't really see the issue, plus it's my house. We've been talking about him moving in, but he says not flushing after every use is a non-starter, and he won't even consider moving in with me until I promise to always flush. I am considering just breaking up with him because I have no desire to stop. It's an ingrained habit I don't feel like putting the work into to stop. Plus I genuinely feel like I am saving water from being wasted, and on top of that it saves me money on my water and electric bill. Am I being crazy? Is this something everyone would be disgusted at or think is bizarre behavior? Should I just suck it up and start flushing every time I pee? At this point I don't even know who is the crazy one here. Too long, did not read. It's already short as fuck. If you don't want to read a single paragraph, then I don't know what to tell you, lol. Edit. Okay, so from what I have gathered from the comments, this habit is not overwhelmingly considered right or wrong and seems to be a cultural thing. Some people have said it's absolutely disgusting and bizarre, while others have said they've always lived this way and have never seen the problem. Generally though, you all agree that this is something I'd be willing to stop if I cared enough about the relationship, and honestly that made me realize you're right. I hadn't considered that my lack of desire to put in the work of breaking a lifelong habit is indicative of my lukewarm feelings towards my relationship. Thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate everyone's perspective on this. Also, who in God's name gave this weird-ass post a wholesome award? Second edit. A few questions that keep popping up. 1. What does flushing a toilet have to do with electricity? My water is well water and uses a pump to run, which is electric. 2. How often do you flush? I pee on average once every 90 minutes or so because I drink a ton of water. Throughout the day I'll flush every 5 or 6 pees give or take, and I always flush during my final pee before bed. 3. Do I flush a bunch of TP all at once? I actually don't flush any TP ever. I have a small bidet I use and only end up needing a little piece of TP to dry off, which I then toss in the trash. And yes, the minuscule amount of water this uses is much preferable to the gallons of water that would be flushed daily. One final thing I would like to add. For those people saying pee stinks, I highly suggest you up your water intake, lol. You are the asshole, it's gross. People in my house do that, and guess what, it smells like pee in my bathroom and it's gross. Plus I flush it before I go every time they do this. I ain't sitting just a few inches over someone's pee stew, so they sure as hell aren't saving any water. You are the asshole. Had a friend like this. Could always smell the piss in their bathroom. I'd flush just to get rid of it. Info. Is this the hill you choose to die on? My former roommate and best friend doesn't flush pee either. Waking up first thing in the morning to a couple of peas worth stewing and stinking in there is not a good way to start the day. How is not flushing saving you money on electricity? I don't know of any toilets that cause your power bill to go up due to flushing. You are the asshole if you live with someone. That's basic decency, and I understand that your boyfriend is grossed by it. Imagine if your coworkers or friends did that, would you not be uncomfortable? I promise your bathroom smells revolting and you're just so used to it you don't notice. You are the asshole. You are the asshole. My kid doesn't flush and it stinks up the place. Yes, even just pee. I guarantee you're also making a smell. It's gross. I'd understand if you didn't flush because someone else needed to pee right after, but just to leave it there all day is grim. It's going to be staining your toilet bowl as well. Living together is a compromise. If you can't be bothered to change something that bothers your partner, then you absolutely shouldn't move in together. You are the asshole. Letting your pee sit in the toilet is pretty gross behavior. I think your boyfriend's reaction to this is to be expected. No assholes here, to each their own, man, but I wouldn't live with someone who didn't flush. Do you expect him to put the seat down? Similar courtesy, my dude. Not all of us are comfortable with seeing one another's waste. I think you should respect that preference of his because it is generally considered a private matter. If you're not willing to, that's cool too, that's your preference, but yeah, maybe separate because his need is valid.